What is up, YouTube? It's your boy Alex here from AlexCFE, and today we have another video. Today I'm joined by a very special guest. The author of this article over here is going to be Sage. Why don't you say hi, Sage?
Hi, I'm Sage. I am the second biggest stats guy in the Vanguard community, and I recently did an entire breakdown of the stats behind the BCS season and what I think the world's meta will look like. Alex very graciously asked me to come on here to be asked some questions and say a bit more about my thoughts, and I'm really grateful for the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, also shouts out to Fuzzy. This is hosted on his website. I'll link it down in the description below. I'm not sure if you guys can see it with the banner there, but yeah, I guess he is the #1 stats guy over here. Super nice guy if you ever meet him in real life. But yeah, you did write this article and you put together just basically a spreadsheet. I know how much effort and time you really put in during the season from our mutual discords and whatnot. So I really do enjoy this stuff. I do something very similar on a day-to-day basis. So I did want to kind of bring light to this and really talk about it, because I feel like I do talk, I don't want to say negatively, but I do criticize certain things about this game. So when credit is due, I feel like it definitely is important to put this out. And I haven't really seen anybody cover this necessarily yet. So what better way than to do it with the author himself? So we're going to hop right into it. And I mean, you can see my screen, right?
Yeah, I can see the screen.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, so right off the bat, the population, I think, of every event kind of just blew me away. In a way, I know that this game is smaller, of course, than a lot of other TCGs, but certain events, which we might cover in a second, they actually capped out. I know New York was absolutely huge. It looks like all the American ones are absolutely huge, but before we dive into it, I just wanted to say I think the health of the game in terms of growth is definitely there, and there maybe, I know that Bushiroad wanted to become the #1 TCG company. Maybe that's a bit of a stretch, but this is very positive growth, and I think that's something to highlight and kind of say and mention, especially because, like I said, I've been critical in the past. But just hopping into it. Yeah, go ahead.
Before we move on to that, I definitely agree that the growth of the game is good. This is the first time post-COVID that we've seen 500 players on one day for an event. This was day one of Duluth.
Yep.
And then they got up to 800 total over both days by the end of day two. The game is still a bit smaller than it was pre-COVID. California used to have about 500-600. We were high 400s. And UK 2019 was 330 people. This year it was only 200-ish, but we've got strong trends. I sent you a picture of the growth this year on last year, and things are definitely moving in the right direction. So there are good signs.
Yeah, I think I can't view it right here because I am just sharing the web page, but overall, just to mention it, the overall growth for D year over year was 204%, 119. It's kind of caveat for V, and also 159 for premium there. So this is definitely an up year. I think you summarized it, I think, towards the end a little bit at just saying, yeah, this is the year of standard. That's clearly the thing that's drawing people in. But I think V and premium does have to be kind of looked at, just because I feel like a lot of players still stick around because of those formats. So it's not all just about standard. But again, just highlighting the big players over here. Obviously, all the United States locations, Anaheim, Duluth. I'm surprised Anaheim had even that many. That's a whole lot for me, at least. Malaysia.
It was the first event to do 2 blocks since Anaheim 3 years ago.
Wow. We almost did, I heard, 2 blocks at White Plains, but I think it was better that they didn't. Really. It was just a solid showing altogether. And then, just shouts out too to, I think, the Far East, Vietnam, Myanmar, Indonesia. Indonesia capped out, I think you said, every event. Or no, was it Malaysia? It's just there's so many people.
Malaysia capped out all 3. Indonesia capped out at least 2, and I think the 3rd capped, basically.
Nice. But yeah, no, these are really solid numbers, and you can just see the quality of players, the passion of the player base, and every single region, I think, is on the up and up, and it's just, you get that feeling, at least from these numbers here. So and I do want to mention too, I know comparatively, clearly, Europe just didn't have the same attendance necessarily, but I just want to highlight too that that's not a good indication of player skill, because when you look at past worlds, and when you look at just the general player base over there, there are extremely high level players. So maybe they don't have the same player base, but those players are extremely good. Every European player I've ever played against virtually or whatever is always very top tier, and so are you, Sage. So speaks for itself.
Thanks for the call.
There we go. Cool. Hopping right into it, I think this was really interesting, and again, it's not a one-to-one comparison. I think you mentioned that also on Twitter. I think you mentioned it down here as well in the article, which you guys can read. I definitely encourage you to check that out. But on the days where V and Premium are being compared, I want to look at those. So BCS Malaysia, V and Premium on the same day. We saw Premium edged out V by about a 15 point or percentage point margin there. I think that's about fair. And again, all these are very like regional specific, so not one-to-one necessarily, but these are the closest things we can get. In Vietnam, V extremely popular compared to Premium. I think that's kind of understood. They're not an English-speaking nation, and I think even though they are playing the English game, it is definitely still more of that Eastern mentality when it comes to that. Whereas in Malaysia, I know there's tons of English speakers and whatnot. Myanmar.
I'm not.
Oh, go ahead.
For the the Vietnam results, I'm not sure how much I agree with that. I think it's more like the culture of the country itself.
Mm-hmm.
Like Myanmar, I know was pretty representative of Premium.
Yep.
Because the community is much more tight knit. We see lots more people playing decks that they've been with for a long time and like just sticking with them, mastering them. And that environment itself fosters more towards Premium in that sense.
Okay.
Although we do see a general trend in AO, especially in like Southeast Asia, where V is more represented. I talked a bit with like Smurf about this. Like they are V Premium's strongest soldiers at this point.
Okay, yeah, no, that covers that point then, and that's totally valid too. Like regionally, I feel like people do have a flavor, kind of something that they do like. I think it is completely valid to say that that is part of the reason why it is going to be more represented. But yeah, Myanmar there, like you said, Malaysia, Indonesia, yeah, V is definitely a little bit more popular. But I think it's overall, if we're going to go towards the future, like right now, the way V currently is shaping up, like I could see it waning off and just Premium becoming a little bit more popular with the introduction of products. Obviously, that we have, there's 3 start decks, or not start decks, the stride decks, that's whatever you want to call them, I guess. So you have product kind of geared towards that. We haven't had any V product. I feel like the V clan collections, this were kind of the goodbye to pure V product, and it's just going to be like a mix going forward. So I expect these numbers, maybe next year even, to start increasing for Premium.
Although, funnily enough, for V, this season has seen more shift than any other season where we've had clan collections, just because of the power of the promos they've been putting out. There are probably more meta-relevant promos than meta-relevant clan collection cards, which is kind of sad.
Yeah, no, you are right. I forgot to mention that. Yeah, that is absolutely valid. So, any other thing you wanted to point out here? I know, I guess the only other thing I wanted to maybe mention is like I think they really need to make it uniform, just like you said, maybe standard and V on like day 1, and then day 2 across the board has to be Premium. What are your thoughts on something like that?
I think that is obviously something that I would really like. I think offering up the thing of having Premium, which I believe should be the more supported legacy format, giving that its own day, I think is something that's good for the growth of the game, growth of Premium, growth of the history, growth of the culture of the game, and also like support and knowledge about, say, the old guard and stuff, which I am rapidly becoming a part of, and that's quite scary. But one thing I would like to highlight is that you definitely see higher numbers of like V Premium representation and Premium representation in events that are more populated by these sorts of old guard players, these really experienced ones. Like Vienna had basically every good European player at it, and we got to 80% people sticking around for day 2, a number that just wasn't matched anywhere else.
Yeah, no,
I think that's important to say, that like you get people into being these legacy players through legacy formats, so we should support them.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And I think, that statement's actually pretty valid. As I look down and I'm like, all right, what do I think of in this region? And it's like, are they known for Premium? Are they not? Yeah, and I think all across Europe in general, I'm seeing that. Yep. So, cool. Awesome. So yeah, big spike over here. V doing well enough, but Premium kind of edging it out, I would definitely say. Moving onwards then to our
one last thing is like V this season has done better than in BSF because there are Worlds invites on the line. I'm really interested to see, I would have been if it wasn't tri format, to see how V does in BSF 2023. Because my theory is that a lot of people played V because they didn't want to get over-triggered out of a Worlds invite, pretty much.
No, I do enjoy V personally. I know some people have their opinions or whatever, but I played that instead of standard day 1, and that was a large reason why. I just you can control your variables a little bit more in that format, obviously without the overtrigger. So that was a big reason for me, at least.
Yeah, that's very valid.
Just World's Invite aside, just like I didn't want to play with the overtrigger in both my formats. So there we go. Yeah, moving into the standard format, I don't think there's like too much to really dwell on over here. We do see Orphis towards the post-ban list towards the end of the season kind of be the most represented deck, and I think that's pretty clear. Things like Gandiva really falling off after the ban, but I don't think any of these decks are problematic, and you do mention that over here. Is there anything you want to say about the pie chart?
Well, firstly, I would like to thank everyone who talked with Orphis for just being him, her, or them that day. That deck is insanely powerful, but also very bricky.
Yeah.
Like, when you don't see the mask.
Yep.
I think one interesting thing is that multiple D formats, if you scroll to the left, like Fuzzy's put the pie charts together, like you should see, actually no, it should be on the right. It's the pre-banless one.
Yeah.
You have a consistent deck, as in Willista, and then also the high roll deck in Gandiva, and then you have post-banless, the consistent deck in Greedon, and the high roll deck in Orphis.
Yep.
And both times the high roll deck has kind of edged out the consistent deck, which is not what I was expecting, pretty much.
Yeah, I think decks like, what is it, Willista and Gandiva over there, you're calling it high roll. I think it's a little bit, it is, but the floor to me is a little bit higher, and like, I think those are, in my mind, just like consistency picks, but we see things like, maybe Chronojet, not so much, but yeah, Greedon, Minerva, things like that, where you're just going to sack or kind of get a little bit of like high roll luck going for you. Like, I think...
Although Greedon I feel is pretty consistent, because you farm a big hand, and like, you'll hit the OT eventually.
You hope so. But yeah, no, you still have to hit triggers, I guess, that's what I'm saying, but anything with multiple Vanguard swings is always a little bit of a gamble. But I think there's nothing problematic here, in my opinion. Gandiva has been corrected, more or less, if not kind of exterminated to a point. I think looking forward, this is a really great list you put together over here. And again, these are all subjective, so don't come at either one of us over here. I think you've chosen three really solid decks. I personally maybe don't value Bastion as high, but I definitely see why it's there. All the Saki picks are still Saki. I think we touched on it a little bit earlier prior to our call, but I think Greedon is, in a way, maybe a little bit higher. Maybe I'm going to Grigio a bit, but I wouldn't be surprised to see any of these maybe come in like a top 8 situation.
Yeah,
these over here
I could see
solid.
I think a deck that's kind of underrated, but it requires a lot of things to go right on the day, is Prison. Because that deck, if it faces like not Drajuled, it can grind out games fairly well. And especially if a lot of people take Full Blast, because it's a very easy deck. It's simple, you know the lines. Prison cannot lose to Full Blast, pretty much, because goodbye Revolve forms, end of the game.
All out of soul and whatnot.
And I think if you just see the matchups, you will top on that deck, and I hope I see people do it. It's so cool to play.
Yeah, no, I think it's actually pretty solid. One person plays it at locals, and I forgot who it was, but in Georgia, I think it's God, I forgot his name. It's Prime Vanguard was talking about it, and I kind of agreed. Like, I think Prison's a pretty solid deck right now. Yeah, I love his content, and I personally have a soft spot for Hexor. I've been grinding that and on my comeback into the games. So I think it has favorable matchups here and there, but again, it's a high roll deck for sure. It's not like crazy. The rethink your life choice category, I probably agree with 100%. Dragon Tree, that's funny. But yeah, I think Zork is still like amazing. I think Leonore right now, like just the advantage, pressure, numbers that you can get on the board are pretty much second to none. Yeah, Mushy King needs
one
to be
thing that like not many people are talking about in Leonore is the flexibility it has in like its attack patterns. You can go for a lot of 40k swings and eat through hand, but you can also like shift to a more swing for 60, 70 Skull Dragonish playstyle. So it really rewards skillful players who hand track, and that's one of the things that, in my opinion, pushes it into best deck.
Yeah, I think, exactly. Like what you do, the deck does what you want to do in that situation, and it feels like it could poke or it could, make the big columns, like you said. And I feel like I'm always, whenever I play this deck, it's like they have just a book in their hand. It's always a bit of an uphill climb, but yeah, definitely. I still don't think any deck is problematic to the point where like things need to be banned out right now. I actually think it's a fairly fun format in my opinion. As fun as standard, I guess, can be.
Yeah.
So
I'm enjoying it more than I think the DBT12 format,
yeah,
because the playstyle is very similar in like you need to be killing turn 3, turn 4, and you like need to optimize your aggros in ways towards it. But there are more flavors of it, which in some ways is nice. Like I'm playing Zorga, I'm playing Leonor at the moment, and I'm enjoying the way they play a lot. But I think there are definitely problematic symptoms in the format, and if we keep on seeing this aggro, I think the format can get like pretty bad. So I hope Bushiroad, like with divines, creates ways that make decks that just don't care about the aggro, are more defensive,
yeah,
get into like grindier, more skill expressive games. And I think you've got a really, really cool D format.
yeah. No, it's a pretty good summarization kind of, or a wish, which just that whole statement in general makes I feel like Prison even more interesting going forward, because it's like the only deck that kind of still like just controls things out, and it's like one of the only decks that can really sit here and grind.
Yeah,
actual
Zorka
grind.
grinds a lot, but it also has like the aggressive
lethality,
bent
yeah.
that it's playing into a bit more at the moment.
Yep. Cool. Yeah, no, I think that pretty much summarizes our format over there. I think we went over this. Yeah, the pre-ban list 1, 2. Hopping into V. Won't take too much time over here. I think people have been seeing a lot of what they expected over the past couple of years. I feel like, honestly, there's so many choices you can bring, and none of them are like really wrong, but they're clear favorites and definitely decks that maybe do things a little bit easier. I know Davis, once he got the promo, obviously kind of catapulted up a little bit. Anj just been super consistent. Night Rose towards the end of the season also, I believe, started to pick up a bit more with the promo
Once
too.
we discovered the good list, yeah.
Yeah, thanks to you over here. So if you haven't checked it out, I'll link it down in the description as well, but go to Sage's Twitter. He put together a really solid Grand Blue list that I've been using, and it's kind of crazy. So I did want to talk about, where is it over here? Oh yeah, I just wanted to show this for 2 seconds. I think this kind of nails the nail on the head, so to speak. Not high roll, high roll picks.
Shout out Vanquisher, AAX2, Nuno Raimundo is my goat. Best deck ever.
Yeah, we won't dwell too much on V over here. Oh, the screen just did a weird thing. There we go. Yeah, mostly balanced in the moment you wrote up over here. I like this last kind of discussion point. Just banning VRs from a certain set onwards, where I think the design really started to change. And like every set from, I think, yeah, VB from 11 onwards, like if you weren't playing like the main VR or one of the main VRs from that set, like you weren't playing competitive Vanguard. And I think that's really unhealthy in a way. Like older decks could never compete with whatever was coming out. And I think banning a lot of those VRs from that point onwards really breathes more life into the format, kind of changes things up. Do you have any other thoughts on that? Or
Well, the main thing is I think Clan Collection design, while weaker, is a lot healthier than everything that went on in the last year of V, which was mainly just grade 2 bullying, not one of my favorite strategies. And I think Riviere, which is the VEB11 set, just for people who are listening along and don't know, that I think is like around the time when we break Clan Collection power level. So I mean, some Clan Collection decks are really good, so I don't think this fixes the format. We'll probably end up with like Jewel Knights versus Revengers versus Steam Maidens versus Leopold, and you'll want to address those, but at least it gets me off of Rose, Starvus, Gurgit, Anj as the only sort of viable picks for any V event.
yeah, I know they talk about diversity doesn't always equate to a healthy format, but at the same time, like nobody really in a TCG, especially modern day TCGs, wants to be playing the same deck for 3+ years. So something, if they're looking to keep the format around, that is really has to be done, and I think this is at least a step in the right direction, if not the exact kind of outline on how to do it. So yeah,
I'm not sure how much diversity applies to like V Premium, because every deck to me feels like a different flavor of mid-range.
Yeah,
but it's more like I just want to play a different mid-range deck at this point, bro.
yeah.
I've been playing Rose for 3 years.
There you go. All right, cool. Hopping into it, I think this is probably, at least to me, the most interesting format right now in terms of you could clearly see what regions valued what styles more, and this is like so matchup dependent, this format. It's just more interesting to me in general, obvious deck building and mechanics aside and whatnot, but I think it is really interesting to see what was topping over here. I know a lot of people talk down, I know Solemn especially, about Mega Colony, but we still see it's like the most popular list. It might not be the best, but we were talking about this before, and I think this kind of applies to both Narukami and to an extent Mega Colony. When you're at like a very big event, especially I guess in the United States, you're not always expecting to see meta, and in my mind, like a philosophy or whatever, you have to take what deck that you think can blanket the format or insulate you, I was saying, against a wide variety of decks. And like these two do their thing, they do it pretty well, they have outs to a lot of different things, and like it's just, you know, a bit of a standard choice. I mean, the best decks, if you want to get into this part over here, are probably Grand Blue and Bermuda Triangle, but I still think it was really interesting to see like the more consistent, perceived consistent decks were kind of taken more.
I do think another thing that not many people talk about is that Premium is getting to a level where the skill floor and skill ceiling of the deck actually affects if you should pick it or not. And I'm definitely not saying this because I gravitate to the hardest deck every format, but like Narukami we see topping a lot because you can very easily pick it up and play it. Like,
yeah,
Peter got his World's Invite after picking the deck up at 2 a.m. of the night of the event. So he's a good player, obviously, but Naru is very plug and play.
100%. That
Whereas, say, Grand Blue or Colony, you need Colony, it depends on how good the players around you are, but for those you need like a lot of matchup knowledge and like experience. So you see them topping inherently less, I feel.
For not to dispute that point, but like Colony, just, you know, when you flip up Ghidorah, you're stopping a lot of stuff, and yeah, you do have to know the matchup and what that does to them if they could play through it, if you want to expend resources. But like at the same time, it is like kind of that blanket move where it's like, all right, I'm just gonna do it, and like they're not really going to be able to come through. But I think there's also, yeah, a ton of value in just playing something that's easy to play. It's a really long day. Like a lot of these events are like 8-9 rounds for us. If you're sitting there trying to think through, you know, a 30 line or 30 move combo Grand Blue line of play, it could be mentally
or just like
draining.
Jake this season, who took Melissa to a lot of events and he bubbled multiple times just because that deck's really hard to play for 8 rounds in a row.
Yeah, no, one little slip up will do it for you. And yeah, he bubbled out a couple times, but yeah, things like that. It's just it is a little bit more difficult to play, and there's definitely something to be said for a simple deck, a comfort pick, or just something with a very low or high floor in general. But yeah, I think diverse. This format is pretty diverse. This format is very matchup dependent. Like, you know, paper beats rock, rock beats scissors, so on and so forth. In a way, but at the same time too, that skill expression matters a lot more in this format, in my opinion, and it's probably the most fun to play for me, at least.
Yeah. On the topic of diversity, actually, if you scroll to the right of the pie charts, you'll see that I did something for Premium that I did for no other format, which is breaking it down by archetypes.
Did not see this. Yeah.
This is much more balanced compared to other seasons where we had like insane amounts of combo representation last year, whereas now, like, I think this is a really good format. This is probably the first time saying this, but I would not be annoyed if I had to play this format until like next BCS season. It's really skill expressive and really fun to play.
I agree too, and I think, like, you know, most of things are. Some lists are definitely solved, and like it is what it is. But I still think there's like, as the meta shapes up, like I don't know how to explain it. There are certain like this is gonna come out. I don't know. I don't want to.
You can't leak the world's picks, come on.
No, I'm not going to do that, but things are, I don't think everything is as clear and obvious as a lot of people think, let's put it that way, and I think there's still room for even more growth in this format, and as those things emerge, I'm sure something else will come to kind of like counter and whatnot. So I feel like, yeah, I wouldn't be upset if I honestly had this for, you know, another year or so, like, because I think there's still a lot of undiscovered potential in a lot of decks right now.
I definitely feel that World being positioned as the first event after a ban list where the format seems like super polarized with Ghidorah's best deck is going to mean we've got like I think we'll have a lot of people taking decks that they've chosen as answers to the format compared to last year. It was like Steam Maiden Highlander, Steam Maiden Highlander, Highlander.
Yep.
I think it's going to be a really, really fun thing, and I recommend, like, even if you haven't done any premium before, watch the Premium World stream. You will not regret it.
Yeah, and just generally, like, watching content for premium is so much fun. Like, you have so much more deck choice. The card pool is bigger, and like, I always love to see, even if the match isn't necessarily interesting in a lot of ways, you can still see how people are building and like the idea behind it. And speaking of the way people are building, I don't know if I mentioned it when we looked at the other chart over here, but I feel like there's clearly like regional beliefs or where was it? This one over here. Or just, you could tell, like, in America, Narcomi was super popular. Mega Colony was more popular. In Europe, I know French Katrina kind of took over for a while. People are on that. But stylistically, I think you can see people's heads are in different spaces. So that's another really cool aspect to look at, especially
I think
data's funny. Like
a lot of that comes down to the fact that premium innovation is driven more by testing groups than Bushiroad themselves. So the testing groups usually don't know everything about the format. I don't think there is one that does.
Yep.
Probably not even WCC, I'm going to be honest right here. So the best players in a region in their testing group will have like 80% of the format, but they might be missing something. And then we see these biases develop around the globe because of the sort of blind spots that naturally come about. It's really interesting to analyze.
Yeah, no, that's a great way of putting it. I always call it like the echo chamber. Whatever group you're in, they just kind of, they will influence the way you play, the way you think, and whatnot. And it's happening to me too on our group and whatnot. I'm just like, okay,
Night Rose is tier 0, unbeatable. Trust.
Exactly. And then I get to hear it at locals every day. So I think over here, this is a really solid breakdown and tier list. Best picks, I think, for sure. That is Mega Colony and Grand Blue over there. Good picks. I would even call them a little better than good. I think good is toning it back a bit. That's Nubatama, that last one?
Nubatama, the last one. Yeah. I think it's very good if you assume 30% of the rooms on Colony, because Nubatama beats Colony in most grind games. However, like, Grand Blue and Katrina probably should be in their own tier, which is like, these decks are legitimately better than everything else, but auto lose to flipping up any card that says machining in its name.
That's funny. Yeah, no, I think this is just super solid. Flawed, yeah. I wouldn't for Pale Moon. I don't know. Maybe Murakumo. No. Yeah, I wouldn't either.
I think the Sharot deck is like very cute, but it's just, it doesn't have enough, especially the more I play into it and I start thinking about lines. It's very nice, but it's something I could see myself taking it to BCS, but Wilds, I don't think I would.
No, yeah, I would agree with that statement for sure. I think in that deck specifically, like, you have a lot going on, but it has all the same end goal, and like, your plays are telegraphed, and if you're against a decent player, they can interrupt you at certain points too and whatnot. So
or Grand Blue just creating 6 protect 2 markers and going, please try to kill me, I'll intercept.
Exactly. No, I think this is a great list overall though, and I wouldn't knock anybody for taking any of the flawed tier lists over here.
Yeah, I don't think they're like unplayably flawed. I think literally every deck in this format has flaws. It's just like, these are ones where I start to think you have to be really nice with the clan and not have the time to pick something else up to go, I should take this.
That's fair. That's definitely fair, for sure. All right, cool. And then I guess our last closing point over here, almost the closing point. Just talking about, I know this is kind of a conversation that's been said before. Banning this card, taking it out. I really don't think there's too much going on that like needs to be changed in premium at the moment, but again, I feel like it's more addressing bad card design, which this is bad card design. I mentioned that I personally don't believe you should take this away unless there's something to kind of replace it. But this, I think, does have to be addressed at a certain point. It's gonna, it's just not great design. This is something that's too much of I keep on using the term, a blanket against so many different things, and really just for free shuts off, not free, but inherently shuts off so many decks, and it's kind of strange. Do you have any thoughts on?
So firstly, just to go through the strengths of the card, it obviously forces very inefficient guarding because no G guards combined with Malignantes. It means every card in hand's 15k shield or a PG, and that's not a good place to be in when you're at 2k.
It's true,
5 attacks is something. It also shuts off a lot of decks from their engine, which is something I don't see many people talk about. Like, let's say you're facing Spike Brothers and they galley you, and you survive with 0 cards in hand. If you top deck a grade 3 and are able to stride, with the power of modern decks, you legitimately are able to win those games. However, into Gridora, if you top deck the grade 3, you just re-ride and pass. You've lost that game already because it adds extra pressure through, and like say something like Grand Blue, you can't sort of get your Skull Dragons out and stuff. It locks out games much more easily. I also feel the fact is it functions a lot like Stunverse did back at 4, where you're ripping out like a progressively greater number of cards in hand each turn to the point where they can't play the game. And that's one of my main reasons for suggesting a limit to 1, because 1 Gridora usually isn't the thing that breaks the game, it's the repeated uses of it. Obviously, as a Grand Blue player, I'm very biased and would like to see it at 0, but I think 1 is the fair hit, especially if you're going to take the Stunverse goes to 1 example. Plus, the other thing is, my least favorite bit about Gridora is just the fact that it can just auto-win games if your opponent just didn't draw grade 3s. And having only 1 Gridora means that they're only locked out of the game and for 1 turn, whereas otherwise they have to just like hope to top deck a grade 3 each time, which feels super bad to play into.
Yeah, I think that pretty much summarizes it. And again, there's no substitute for this, but I feel like this is really the only place I would really look to maybe touch something up in general. And I know this video is getting really long over here, but we were discussing too, I saw some like custom cards, something about like a bomb marker, where if whatever unit is on that marker goes onto the marker, essentially it gets retired. I think it would be interesting to maybe see a stride that interacts with the cradle markers a little bit more, to the point where like you could put it on a blank, maybe on a blank, what do you call it, rearguard circle or something. Just something like we need another stride essentially. I'm looking forward to another clan collection maybe to correct this over here.
Although, not gonna lie, every single time they've released a premium collection, the format has died. I'd be fine just getting erratas for the rest of my life. History collection was so good. Let them work with the good card design from the past, please.
That's fair. I feel like you do need something a little bit new, but yeah, G zones are really tight now that I think about it. Yeah, I feel like we have a lot. Yeah, no, we do have a lot. Maybe it's not the actual G zone that needs to be kind of touched.
Actually, if we're branching out into that, I think we should see some more main deck units for premium. That's something I think we've been lacking a lot, especially.
Yeah, that's kind of where exactly where my head was kind of going with that, but. Yeah, no, that would definitely be interesting. So yeah, in conclusion, I know you summarized it nice over here. Just congrats again to everybody who did top. Happy to see this game kind of grow. I think the analytics that we've gotten in the past year between Fuzzy, you, everybody who's like really been contributing and showing top decks on the WCC videos and whatnot. Like, I feel like the community is very active now, and that's the sign of a healthy game in a lot of ways, despite whatever I might criticize Bushiroad for in general, but I do love the game. I do love the community and everything. Everyone's been super kind to me ever since I've done this channel, everybody in the Discord, everything. So shouts out to Shadow Close Gang and whatnot. And,
one other thing, final thing is the community is not only more active, but I feel it's much more international now due to more people using Twitter as a way to share ideas with people from other countries. This not only makes the game better, I also think it just makes the community a much nicer place to be in, because I can randomly ring up Japanese players and be like, hey, what are your thoughts on this deck? And that is sort of that is the utopian vision of card games right there.
That's actually true. And you know, it's funny you mentioned that, because like at first Ootman, Alec, he comes to our locals, he really injected this whole new spirit of like competitiveness and whatnot. Not to say we weren't before, but he brought knowledge that he got from you, and it just kind of seeped out into the community. And then there was, I don't know, just like a feeling at locals. It's like, all right, time for everybody to step their game up in a way, and it was really cool. And it's awesome that I could even ring you right here across, across the pond and have this discussion.
Yeah.
So it
At
is
1 a.m.
exactly. Oh, I'm sorry about the time difference, man.
Nice.
Yeah, I think this is really interesting. This little over trigger cross out. You want to explain that?
Okay, so long story short, Cato in the Roman Republic said they should destroy Carthage. I think we should destroy over triggers.
There we go. So that's the story behind that little. I don't know if you can even see it, but that little Latin phrase right there. But thank you so much, Sage, for hopping on. I really do appreciate this. It's nice to talk to like a higher level player and kind of get some of these perspective and things that like I don't think about on the day to day necessarily. So definitely appreciate it. And this article is awesome, and you guys definitely should all check it out.
Yeah, but thank you for having me on. I think your content especially is really good and filling a niche that we don't see a lot in the Vanguard community. So I'm always happy to come on for a high level discussion on stuff. It's really nice to talk about the game in a manner.
Yeah,
and I really enjoy it.
Awesome.
Thanks for your time.
Yeah, of course. Remember, guys, if you did enjoy the content, make sure to leave a like on the video, possibly consider subscribing to the channel for more content like this. And if you are interested in purchasing any cards, use the TCG player link down in the description below. Absolutely no cost to you. You can help support the channel. Thank you in advance. This is Alex from Alex CFE signing out.